Welcome. I want to introduce you to a wonderfully designed camera. You don't see this one too terribly often, other than once in a while on eBay. This is a camera that was made by a company around 1897, 1898 called American Optical. Again, it's a wonderfully designed, very compact camera, and it's nicely built, very well built. This particular one has got a few modifications on it. Normally you wouldn't see the set screws here in the front. Those were just placed in there for various reasons. There are a couple other modifications on this camera too. I won't go much into that. I want to give you just a basic idea how this camera works though. This particular format is called full plate. It is 6.5 by 8.5 inches, pretty much. Some people will abbreviate that and they'll call it 6 by 8. It's better to call it just what it really is, which is 6.5 by 8.5 or full plate. And that's the size of the negative that it will generate. This is a clamshell design camera. Here's the front standard, right here. This is where it fits onto the tripod. I'm going to turn it on its side. Here's the back standard. Right here, on this side, here's our front, and there's our back standard. And then in the very back is our ground glass. And then the ground glass easily removes for vertical shots or horizontal shots. Both are easily done on this particular camera. The format is very longish. It's much like a 35mm kind of a longish look to the format, not quite so boxy as an 8x10, so it's kind of longish. How do we open up this camera then? Well, we've got a latch on top. We're going to release that, and then there are some knobs on the side here. We just loosen the knobs, and we get our baseboard. This is our baseboard right here. That comes right out, and then from here we can draw our front standard forward. I'm going to have to get in front of the camera here in order to do this. But it just draws out. Here we go. Draws out. This particular design does not ratchet out at first like a lot of other cameras do. From here though, once we get it out, then we can go ahead and ratchet out the rest of the camera to whatever bellows length that we want. So that's how this camera works. It's actually kind of an interesting design. What that allows for though are some nice little movements in the front. If I release these two little knobs here, we've got swing in the front. We also have rise in the front. Here's our front rise, right here. We do not have front tilt. That is one thing that this camera does not have. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Now let me turn the camera around for you. Our tilt is all on the back standard. So if you need tilt, it's going to be back here. And this just releases. That's all it does. And there's our tilt back here. There's also no swing on the back side. So the only thing the back can do here is tilt. Let me give you a side profile of the camera here. That's what it looks like. Very, very light and compact, especially for the format size. It's a powerful format size. It beats up 5x7 like crazy. There's no comparison between a 5x7 negative and a negative made by this camera. None. 5x7 is a toy compared to this. And again, I'll show you the front here. Whole camera probably weighs, I'm going to say around 4 pounds. 5 absolute tops. Not a whole lot of weight here. One other thing I'll tell you about, there is a ratchet design here actually made for this particular camera. On this one it's been modified. This is much, much simpler, and it supports, what I've done to it, it supports heavier lenses it works nicely for me. Okay, one last thing we'll talk about, and that is very, very important to many of us, the front tilt. Again, there's no possibility of front tilt on this camera unless you went through quite a bit of modification. It's all in the back. Having said that, this camera is very light. It sits well on a tripod. Again, it's very sturdy, well made, but it is very light. And so it's not a big deal in order to set the front and then to lower your tripod down at an angle, to drop the bed of your camera down, and then re-tilt here in the back. That is not a big deal with this camera. On a lot of 5x7s that are heavier, that is a big deal. Most 8x10s, that's a really big deal. You don't want to do those things. They just create all kinds of hassles. On this camera, it is not a big deal. It's very, very easily done. So in the end, really this camera does not need that front tilt as you'd like it in a lot of other cameras. It just doesn't need it. And I think we'll leave it at that. Take my hands away. One final look. American Optical 6.5 by 8.5 full plate. Stunning design. Great camera. Great format. There you have it.